Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to a brand new episode of this show all about the untold stories of great individuals. But of course, I'm your host, Abdullah Hindiani.
And I'm your host, Al-Athari, and today we're joined by Fedha Nazar, who is a filmmaker and screenwriter. And I'm honestly really inspired to hear how her journey came about, because she didn't choose this path. It kind of happened for her because it was her passion that led to it becoming a career.
It is, and honestly, I think the production team of The Untold are sick of how much I love talking about movies, talking about filmmaking, but I do appreciate all the times they bring people who work, in films, in filmmaking, making movies, making documentaries, doing all of that, because honestly, talking to them, seeing their experiences, especially people who are here, right, working locally, it's always an amazing conversation for me personally.
I agree. I mean, she started her journey outside. She just started capturing little moments, observations. The thing about all kinds of art is that people who do them, they have very unique perspective. The things that they see are not what you and I see. They have their own kind of filter where they see the world, and then they can bring that to life in a beautiful way.
Yeah.
And with that, I do think we should just see what Fadla has to say, because I'm curious about her journey.
Yeah, honestly, I'm curious as well. Hopefully the audience are curious. We're going to take a break so we come back with our guest after the break. And we're back, ladies and gentlemen, on the conversation segment of The Untold. So I do want to thank you for joining us, but most importantly, I do want to thank you, Fedha Nazar, for being our guest on The Untold. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited.
You know, it's a pleasure to have you. And I know that you're both a director and you also do some writing as well.
Yeah.
And I wanted to ask you, before you got into, film school and, directing, I know that a lot of it comes from the art of observation.
Yes.
So I want you to tell me a bit about that. Like, what was it like for you, just observing things that maybe people don't notice?
I think it started because I thought that there was maybe more than what people were noticing. It could be something very simple and pretty, like the light is hitting the wall in a very specific way, and it just is creating a pretty shape. Or maybe birds are flying together and they're creating this movement that looks really beautiful. Whatever it was, even though it was simple, I felt like life was mimicking art, and whatever I experienced in that moment, I wanted to make sure that I captured the feeling that I had and kept it with me. But that's kind of how it started, really.
And that's always the beauty of filmmaking, I suppose. I did mention in a previous episode that I was studying law, but actually one movie changed my entire perspective, and I could, pinpoint the exact moment. I was watching Children of Men, and then I was like, oh, this is something great. This is something I want to study. I want to analyze, whatever. Then I had the conversation with my mom. I was like, Mom, I know my car keys have Abdullah the lawyer on it, but I don't see myself as a lawyer. I'm going to change my profession. And that was, the moment where I felt that, movies have meanings. So I want to ask you, what was the moment that movies, filmmaking, directing, all of that combined into sharing a meaning and felt like something on a sentimental value?
That's a very tough question, but I remember in the beginning when I was just kind of documenting random things in life. I felt like whatever I stumbled upon it just felt like I was supposed to be there. Whatever it was, I just had this instinct that I felt like there is more to this than what I am currently seeing. Like what I was experiencing at that time was surface level, and I wanted to dive deeper. And that was around the time I was in university and I was studying mass comm. And it was very different than what I wanted. So I really convinced my parents to go to film school because I felt like that was the path for me. And even at that time, I wasn't really sure. I just thought that this was something I needed to follow and see if this was a thing for me. Thankfully it is. I mean, they spent a lot of time and energy into letting me go. But I'm glad that I did, because I later found out that this was what I was supposed to do this whole time, and it was a very wonderful experience.
I think that's really wonderful that even though you weren't sure, you were like, I have a feeling about this, and you kind of went for it, and alhamdulillah, it all worked out. And I wanted to ask you, I think a lot of people think filmmaking is all about structure. It's the script, it's the planning, the theory, the technicalities. So I wanted to ask you, like, what do you think is the biggest misconception people have about how you started as a filmmaker?
I think maybe the misconception is that I had a plan. No one really has a plan. You think that you want to do something. Like, I really thought that I was going to be a writer. Like, that was the thing that I knew that I was really passionate about. But I never felt the spark with writing. I always felt like, okay, is this it? I feel like there should be more if it's something that I'm passionate about. The biggest misconception is that I had a plan, because I didn't. It's something that I stumbled across. When I first started, like, I was always a creative kid growing up. There were things that I was really passionate about, like writing and drawing, but there was no spark within that. And because of that, I decided that there was something that I was missing, something that was making me feel incomplete. Even though there were these passions that I had, there was no real connection. So that was the biggest misconception, that I knew always that I was going to be a filmmaker, because that wasn't the case for me. I just got lucky enough that I found my way there, but it wasn't like that in the beginning for sure. I was just completely lost.
And so how would you define the beginnings? Like, how did you stumble upon, you know, being a filmmaker?
That's a really good question. When I was really like documenting random things, and it didn't feel intentional when I first started, when I was just documenting what I thought was pretty. It felt intentional, and it felt like I needed to explore further when it became when I came to like the editing process. So when I was intentionally taking footage and cutting things and putting voiceovers or music, when it felt like actual work, like I kind of stopped in my breaks for a bit, and I was like, wait, I should really immerse myself in whatever this is. And that was, I think, the first real realization that I had, that this is what I want to do. Not editing per se, but whatever this passion was. Yeah.
No, that's really cool. I heard that actually your early videos were never meant to be seen.
Yeah.
That they kind of for you. So what were those like? And what did it feel like doing stuff that you knew that were not going to be seen by people?
It felt really liberating, for sure. When you don't have that pressure of, am I doing the right thing? Is it perfect? All these like thoughts that you have in your head. If you're just doing it because you enjoy what you're doing and you're posting it to kind of keep going and as like a form of practice, it's a really good way of doing it. And I didn't really care at that time about feeling seen or feeling like my work was going anywhere, because it was kind of like I was documenting the evolution of my work in the first stages. And it's really cool that I did that, honestly, because now I can look back and be like, oh, that's how I started. You know, not everyone gets to do that or have that. So I'm glad that I did that, for sure. Yeah.
Well, that's also how Steven Spielberg started, right? He was making
Yeah,
home videos back
that's
in his
true.
home, yeah. And then he went on to become one of Hollywood's biggest names. I do, sorry, I do want to ask you about something, because you said, you know, you've always envisioned yourself to be a writer, but then you just didn't find the love for it. So what was the key, you know, difference between filmmaking as a storytelling medium and the writing itself? Was it the process that was mundane, or was it, you know, what was it about the two?
I like, honestly, I still love writing a lot, but it just felt incomplete, because I would write and then that's it. That's the end. You know, I always felt like, wait, there's like a missing piece. And with filmmaking, you get to do both. You get to write a script and you can watch that script become something real, like right in front of you. And having whatever's in my head get translated onto the script to something that I can like touch and see in front of me was something amazing. Like, I instantly felt that spark the first time I wrote a script and I gathered actors and a whole set and everything, and seeing it all happen in front of me, it was like a dream coming true. So I think that was the missing part for me, because it's two different forms of art mixed together in a way, and that's really fun.
I mean, it's really cool that you were able to kind of take two things you love and bring them together.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like you can bring your words to life in a different kind of way, because you're actually creating the visuals that go with them. And I did hear that also in your more early videos, you also paired the visuals with voiceovers.
Yeah.
So what was it like kind of using that? Did it help you with storytelling or understanding yourself? Like, what was the process?
right now in my life, like currently, it's more about storytelling. But back then, I was really trying to understand myself because I didn't have the correct language or the correct tools or really any knowledge behind what I was doing. And while I was practicing the craft and I was slowly doing different things every now and then, I started learning a lot about myself and the way that I choose to express myself. And I feel like if you watch any director within all their like scope of work, there's like this signature feeling that they all have, and you can tell, oh, this director directed this film and this director directed this other film. I'm not saying that I have my signature style just yet, but when I was practicing, I kind of felt that in the beginning, and I still kind of have that now. And it's something that I definitely don't want to let go of, for sure.
I was just gonna say that, do you think that you're gonna find a style that defines you, or you're still in the process of trying different things and seeing, how you can shape your style?
That's the crazy thing, because anytime I try to change my work or change the style of my work, there's still like a sprinkle of Fedha in it somewhere. Like you can still tell it's done by me or directed by me. So even if I try to escape it, it still kind of follows me in a not creepy way.
I love when you said like little sprinkles of Fedha everywhere. That's
Yeah.
so cool.
Thank you.
And you pursued it in filmmaking as going to a filmmaking school.
Yes.
Which obviously offers a lot more structure, a lot more discipline, probably technique and all that. So what were you hoping to gain from all that? Because I think everything you had before then was very raw, very more kind of exploratory. So what was it like transitioning from, filming in that kind of way to going to film school?
The thing that I really needed was tools. Like I wanted to be educated well enough to know what I was doing and if it had a real purpose behind it. When I was doing things in like a raw sense of feel, I felt like my work, I still love it, like I'm really protective of it, but I still feel like it was two-dimensional or flat. There was no real depth. It didn't feel complete. And if you have the right tools, and you're educated well enough about what you're doing, whether it's be like through practice or through film school, the more you do it, the more you know what you're doing and you know the intentions behind it. So it was important for me to feel like whatever I was putting out there, that it had like a well-rounded concept, let's say.
And speaking about well-rounded concepts, the idea or the concept of movies is something that we all know, just people behind the screen, moving images.
Yeah.
And then when you go from studying all of that, going to school for it, learning all that, and then to be, behind the screen on the set itself, actually being there, like, the first times, how did those emotions hit you? How did the realization come to you that, well, I'm now actually doing something I've been dreaming about for so many years?
It felt amazing. Like honestly, I was very scared going into it. I was very intimidated before I even stepped foot on set, but the minute I was there, I realized that we all have like the same purpose. We all have the same end goal, right? Like we're trying to make this project happen. We're all doing the best that we can, and just watching everyone move within the same rhythm, cohesively. I don't know, it was wonderful. It just felt right. It just felt right.
So was it that moment when you stepped onto a set that everything kind of clicked?
I think so. Like even just talking about it now, I'm smiling because I can't even explain that feeling. I feel like for a long time, I was trying to look for that spark within the passions that I had. And when I stepped foot on set for the first time, it was instant. Like I can't even explain it. And I feel like every creative person out there kind of struggles trying to find the thing that makes them happiest. And honestly, even though it's like a really risky route to take, I'm more than happy to take it. I love it. I love what I do.
I'm so glad you love what you do, and I'm so glad you managed to find that spark following your inspirations and your creativity.
Yeah.
We are going to take a really quick break, and then I hope we can dive a bit deeper into this.
Perfect.
So stay tuned for after the break.
Thank you.
And we're back, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for tuning in. Now, Fedha, I do want to ask you about something, taking your inspiration and then going from basically reading about movies, watching movies, filming, you know, your early footage and everything. But then how do you approach a story? Like, how do you approach something you want to tell? Do you have an idea in your mind and you want to see how you can tell it? Or do you go out, you know, in the world and see what story sticks out there? And then you're like, okay, now I gotta tell that story.
I really like this question actually, because ever since I was a kid, I was such an overthinker and a wild imagination. So it's really hard to filter my thoughts and make them something simple. But there are moments where I do like experience things in real life, or I see something when I'm outside or wherever in the world. And something would inspire a thought or a feeling, and the minute I have that thought or feeling in my head, it's hard to not let that branch out into like a million different things. But that's kind of how it starts. My biggest issue or my biggest struggle is trying to edit those thoughts down. So if you look at a page, it's like crazy. So what my thing or my thing right now is trying to edit things down and make sure it's appropriate for each story or each script that I'm trying to write.
Yeah, no, I think that's a really difficult thing to accomplish.
Yeah.
I also grew up as an overthinker with a wild imagination, so I can kind of understand where you're coming from. I do want to ask you though, like, what is the hardest part of kind of translating that emotion or that imagination into a structured thing like a script? Like, how do you do it?
Honestly, the structure for me wasn't the issue because, like anything out there, there's like a specific format for scripts, and it's really easy for me to follow because I already was somewhat of a writer. Like I would write stories, and all these different things. And shockingly enough, writing a story is a million times harder than writing a script, because what you write on a script is really what you see on screen. It's not what the person is feeling internally. So you choose what to write in terms of what you want to appear for the audiences to see. And that came naturally to me because whatever I envisioned in my head, it would come out like a frame. And I'd be like, okay, I want this frame in the film. So I would write it down as a scene. And that's kind of how it starts.
Oh, that's really cool. I never thought of it that way, as it's actually being so different than writing a regular novel or book, because it is about what people are seeing. Whereas in a regular book, people are just imagining the whole thing themselves. So I had no idea. I didn't think of the contrast with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, honestly, the amount of, I would say, thought that goes into even the smallest little shot or scene you see is just beyond boggling, right? There's so many things, so many emotions, so many hard stuff to transcribe, but the people try to put it out there as much as they can. Which I do want to ask you, you know, you said that you have a feeling and then you're trying to capture it. So how do you go about, you know, capturing a feeling, you know, precisely something you're feeling in the moment?
It's kind of funny because like there was this one instance that I was in the car with my friend and she was kind of nervous about something. I don't remember what it was. And she started playing with like the paper straw when she was drinking her matcha. And I remember just watching her do that. And instead of asking her what's wrong, I just write it in my notes as like an idea for a film. And then that became a whole film within itself. And even like the paper straw part is a very small part of the film. But like I was saying earlier, like when I have like a specific thought, it kind of grows its own legs and becomes something else completely. So it's whatever I see or whatever I feel, I just try to jot down so I don't forget it or I don't lose it. And then I try to create something out of it.
I think that's awesome. I love that about creatives. It's just that you know, you have these like little quirks about how to find inspiration. It's like the tiniest thing that someone may not think about whatsoever, like your friend playing with a straw, but suddenly that becomes like an idea, which grows into a concept. Next thing you know, you're writing things down and it sort of becomes something.
That's true.
I do want to ask you though, like when people are watching your, you know, whatever you do, what is it that you think that they don't realize about how much uncertainty or doubt may go into creating that voice or that script or that movie? Like, I think a lot of people think these things are just, oh, it's so easy. But, you know, what would people not expect to know about how the behind the scenes are for you?
I think like the amount of second guessing that goes within the process, like even something as simple as the title of the short film, I'll change it like 5 times before I'm like happy with something. or the actors or the location or whatever it is. Like in that moment, and even while we're filming, I'll be like questioning everything and making sure if it's the right choices that I've made. And the funny thing is that even after everything is done, khalas, it's published and it's ready to go and everyone's happy, 2 months later I'll go back to it. I'm like, I wish I did it differently. It's always me trying to be a perfectionist, which is a blessing and a curse because it just means that I'm trying to always get better, you know? But I love my work. It's just that I always feel like I can always do better.
I think everyone is always their harshest critic.
Yeah.
You know, you always criticize yourself more than other things. Like if I watch something that you made or Abdullah does, we'd be like, wow, that's amazing. But you're always going to think of ways it could be better or things that could be tweaked. Do you find it that way too?
Yeah, honestly, and you know what you said just reminded me of a movie I watched recently, which was about Jean-Luc Godard, I think,
Okay.
who made Breathless, which is one of the most influential movies out there. And this specific thing you said, you know, where you're trying to tweak everything within the moment, is exactly his process. He was writing scenes while they were shooting the scenes. He was telling them lines. You know, the actors were doing their performances, and then he was writing lines for the next scene right there in the moment.
Crazy.
Yeah, and that all goes back to him being a perfectionist and seeking that, you know, never-ending change. So I do want to ask about that. You know, when is the time you say, okay, enough changes, enough rewrites, enough tweaking, now this is the shot, this is the moment, this is the scene we're shooting?
There is no real moment. Honestly, like it's a forever ongoing thing, but I try to push myself to just do it because if I'm always sitting there and like second guessing every little detail, it's never gonna happen. So I just push myself and I tell myself, okay, Fedha, if it's not okay, if it's not perfect, if it's not the best short film in the world, so what? Like just publish it. You've worked hard, you've done your work. فخلاص, let it go. But then, you know, like I said, 2 months later I'll go crazy. Because it is what it is. I think just pushing yourself and choosing to believe in the work that you put into it is the way to go, even if you are second guessing yourself. Yeah.
I feel like that's really great advice because I think a lot of us can't help second guessing ourselves, but it's kind of believing that even though you're second guessing, there is something there, it is good. You kind of have to like force yourself, I guess, to detach or remove that doubt, which is, again, easier said than done, obviously. I do want to ask you about when you returned to Kuwait, though, after film school. I heard that you kind of worked your way up in the film industry here, started from the ground. So how did that kind of shape you as a filmmaker? How did it help you starting from the ground up and working your way to where you are now?
I think the main thing that I learned from those experiences was patience and awareness. It also taught me that I should definitely immerse myself in each experience that I get, because every set is different. Every director you work with is different. Every team is different. So you kind of pick and choose what you like so that later when you have your own set or your own production or project or whatever it may be, you're being selective and intentional about what you're applying on set. And that's the thing that I think was the most important for me, because it's not always easy being on set, but if you are choosing to treat everyone with respect and treat everyone the right way and trusting that they're doing their job, then everything will fall into place.
So how would you define your approach within this set, right? Are you, you know, changing the letters a bit? Are you more of a dictator? Or are you more of a director? So how, because I know for some filmmakers, they have their vision, they have the way the scene is looking, and they don't really want another input that changes that vision.
Yeah.
But some others are like, okay, what are we thinking as a group? And then let's work it. So where do you find yourself between that equation?
I believe that it's a collaborative workplace, correct? So everyone has their own purpose. I'm definitely not a dictator. I'm so far from it. But there's a lot of pre-production that happens before I get the whole thing ready. I choose very specific people to work with because I love their work and I think it translates correctly with my vision. And I've maybe worked with them before and seen how they work and since there's that trust, it's hard for me, it's easy for me to not worry so much. And I approve of things much more like beforehand, before we start shooting, to ensure that I have everything that I need. And when it comes to directing or giving my opinion on sets, I will literally go to the person. Like, I'm very different. I will go to whoever I need to go to, and I'll tell them what I need, and they'll just do it, instead of being a dictator, really. I'm so far from that.
I mean, I guess everyone has their own approach when it comes to these things. And as you said, the teamwork is really important. I've noticed that ourselves with our own show, the behind the scenes that happens, everyone has to work with cohesion with each other, or things don't get done, or the product doesn't have the best kind of, you know, experience that it could have, or the people watching. It is, like I said, a collaborative effort. So I did want to ask you, like, at one point you stepped away from structure and stability. So what did freedom give you that this kind of stability couldn't?
Don't get me wrong, stability is amazing. Like, having a stable income is everything.
Yeah.
But I am the type of person that if I have a desk job and I also have my passion, I'm only going to excel at one. And I didn't want to neglect my passion or my films, because it was something that I knew that I loved very deeply. And I never want to, like, if I chose to have a desk job, I didn't want to not do that work properly as well. Like, I want to give my all to everything, but I can't split myself into two. So I thought the smartest thing, but the riskier thing, is to do what I want to do and be selective, which is why I chose to freelance. It's not a path that's easy or clear, but I know that if I don't do it now and I stick to a desk job, which, by the way, is like, to each their own, everyone works however they want to work, but to me it just didn't fit. But if I stayed with my job, like my desk job, I knew that 10 years from now I'm going to be thinking about my passion, and I'm going to be like, oh my God, why didn't I start earlier? And then I'm going to quit my desk job 10 years from now, and then, you know, focus on my passion. So I just knew that I had to start eventually, and I chose now.
Yeah. And, you know, speaking about choice, you know, because we are running a little bit out of time, I do want to leave you with one last question. You said 10 years from now, but let's go 10 years, you know, ago. If you were to see that young, you know, Fedha, who's, you know, now switching careers, looking for going to film school, trying to get that difficult conversation with your parents, like, what do you have to tell her? You know, some comforting words.
Girl, just do you. Like, you know what you want, and don't question it. Just go for it, really. Yeah, that's what I have to say to her. She knows what she's doing. She's fine. So
yeah, I was gonna say she went and she did it anyways.
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
You know, good for you and past you.
Thank you.
And I wish all the best for future you as well.
Thank you so much.
So thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
No, the pleasure was all ours. And with that, we are going to take a very quick break. And that wraps things up with Fedha. And honestly, Abdullah, I loved talking to her. She was so sweet. And I really loved hearing how it wasn't something that she just decided to pursue. It wasn't planned. It just happened because she loves it, and it kind of organically became the thing she chose to do.
Yeah, and honestly, to see such confidence from young filmmakers, especially working here locally in the industry that we have, it's such an amazing sight to behold, right? And she was so enthusiastic talking about her work. And like, I loved how she emphasized the idea that, you know, if you're chasing your passions, it's always going to be a happy time, right? You're always going to feel joyful that you made the right decisions.
I agree entirely. And I did love hearing that she also took her love of writing. She first wanted to be a writer, then developed that into being a screenwriter, filmmaking, editing, and all of the above. And she really just pursued her passion, made it her dream. And she took time in her life to just sort of make it happen. And her advice for everyone is just do it.
Yeah.
Take the risk, and, you know, things will work out, inshallah.
Yeah, take the risk, ladies and gentlemen, but make them calculated. But that's it from us, the team of the Untold. Until the next episode, goodbye for now.
Goodbye, and see you next time.